In this video, we'll see ghost trains, flying saucers, chupacabras, and we'll even tell you how you can get to Mexico. Obviously, this video will have a lot of spoilers. Get ready, because these are 50 amazing secrets in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Super players.
Believe it or not, there are flying saucers in this game, just as you hear it. If you go to this location on the map, you'll come across a small hut, and inside there is a note telling us that if we stay until around 1 AM, we can see the Traveler of Time and Galaxies. Basically, we'll see a flying saucer that's pretty cool, yet a little creepy. Another one of the great mysteries of this game is the self-emanating red light satanic pentagram that is found under a specific hut in this location on the map. Believe me, people on the internet have been trying for years to figure out what to do with this, what it triggers, and the only thing we've been able to find is that if you take a specific character and kill him with thrust to the heart, the music quickly changes to a mysterious music. But after that, we haven't been able to make much progress, so it's still one of the great mysteries of Red Dead Redemption 2. In this game, there are meteors. In fact, in this specific cabin, you can see how a small meteorite entered from the roof and killed everyone with total destruction. You can even see the hole left by the meteor on the roof, which makes everything even more epic, and you can find it in this location of the map specifically. Now that was a small meteorite, but a really big meteorite is seen in this location, where you can see the giant mess left around it. Obviously, since the story of this game is set in a time where not much was known about meteorites, they basically write it down in their diary as, "I found a stone that has fallen from the skies," which is a pretty interesting detail. If you go to this location on the map, you will come across one of the coolest masks in the game, known as the Cat Skeleton Mask. Just search this cabin in the middle of the swamp, crawl underneath the wood, climb up a small platform, and on top, you'll come across the prized and mysterious Cat Skeleton Mask, which you can put on immediately and make your character look pretty epic and pretty creepy if you ask me. And what better place to debut your Cat Skeleton Mask than a church, especially this church, which is a pretty small church, so small that you have to crouch to get in. It's basically a dwarf church. It's practically a dwarf church. What is it doing here? Why is this church so small? And above all, who are the people who come to this church? One of the coolest secrets in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now this is starting to get scary. If you go to this location on the map, you will hear a lady crying inconsolably. Many people think this is the famous Llorona from the Mexican legends. If you approach her and try to talk to her, you will see that she will not listen to you, and she will even attack you, and a dangerous chase will start. And continuing with the mysterious and horrifying secrets of this game, believe me, there are plenty. If you find this house and you enter the second floor, you will find this, a horrifying laboratory full of experiments with creatures, with animals, with humans, where in the center you will find this horrible thing. It's like they've taken a bunch of different animal parts and put it together to create this horrible creature that you can find in this location on the map. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that this creature is a reference to an episode of South Park where they show a monster called the Pig Bear Man, which is identical to that thing. In New Hanover, there is a small farm with a very unique history. If you look at this little building in the back, you'll find this farmer. And what's so special about him? Well, he's next to a goat that's very decorated with beautiful ribbons. And you'll say, okay, that's a little strange, but what's really strange? Well, if you check the goat's body, you realize that it has an engagement ring inside of it. So this farmer was marrying a goat, and this was probably his wedding night. We continue to see strange things, and what could be stranger than this little secret hut in the middle of nowhere? Inside, we are hinted that there lives a witch. And how do we know that a witch lives there? Because it is full of witchcraft stuff, say bones, candles, animal parts, a lot of extremely strange things. But what most indicates that a witch lives here is precisely what she is cooking. A giant pot with a liquid that seems to be a soup or stew. You know, witch stuff. And the most fascinating thing is that you can interact with this liquid and drink it. Mind you, if you do, this will happen. You will appear unconscious on another side of the map, a little bit near the witch's house. Crazy! In this location on the map, you can find another quite terrifying mask. In this case, a mask with the face of a pig. For many, it is a reference to Pigsy from the game Manhunt, which was also developed by the same developers of this game, Rockstar. It's a cave full of statues that is in a pretty hidden location inside these mountains. To get to it, you have to climb a little bit and get behind this giant rock. When you do, you'll see a large crevice, and if you go inside, you'll be able to go through a tunnel that will take you to a rather unique location. Not only are these statues curious, but they have some buttons that, if you press them in the right order, will give you some gold bars. Not bad. If you head to this spot on the map, you will come across a small boat. This old boat has a skeleton inside, and this in turn has a pirate sword that is broken. But you can use and carry it as a weapon in the game, one of the most interesting weapons in Red Dead Redemption 2. Now, what's the point of having a pirate sword if you don't look like one? That's why at this location on the map, you can find a pirate hat to complete your look in true Jack Sparrow style. And now, moving on to something sadder and depressing, this bathroom has a woman in it, and it's locked with chains. This woman obviously has a lot of mental problems and will even try to attack you. Unfortunately, during this time, there wasn't much in the way of therapy and psychological help, and this is basically what they did with people with these kinds of problems. Did you know that you can find a monk meditating on the top of the mountain? That's right, he's there just meditating, minding his own business, and he doesn't want to be disturbed. In fact, you can find him at this location on the map specifically. And yes, I know what you're thinking, and believe me, I tried that too, but trust me, it didn't work. There's a giant snake inside this game, and even though it's already dead on top of a tree and you can't interact with it, it's pretty scary. Many say it's a reference to the movie Anaconda, and others think it might be a reference to the Jungle Book story. We'll never know. Even though mastodons were extinct thousands and thousands of years ago, you can still come across a fossil of this wonderful creature in-game. You can see it for yourself at this location on the map. Likewise, this game is full of corpses that froze to death in the middle of nowhere. For example, this one, you can take his hat off and put it on yourself, and look what a look the character gets when you have it on. Look at that! And that's not the only one, because you can also come across this corpse that's almost completely covered in snow. You can interact with him and take away his weapon. You can also come across this married couple, who apparently also died of cold, but if you approach them, you can interact with their corpses and take a little note they left before they died. In this location on the map, there is a very different mountain. And no, I'm not saying that because there is a dead man hanging from the neck. No, it's not because of that. But because on the mountain, a woman's face is being sculpted, and in front of her, there is a nice treasure. And not only can you find fossils of animals extinct thousands of years ago, but you can also find human fossils, that is, fossils of cavemen inside the game. If you have already discovered more than 30 animals, these birds will take you to meet the mythical Bigfoot. Well, sort of. You won't be able to see him as such, but you will be able to have a conversation with him through a cave where he will tell you that he feels very lonely because no one wants to be friends with someone as big as him. You can find him in this location on the map, and he is one of the most interesting characters in Red Dead Redemption 2. The creepy Ku Klux Klan appears in this game. For those who don't know, this is a group that exists in real life, and in fact, they are known for being extremely racist and murdering people simply because of their skin color. However, the scene we see here is particularly funny because they are initiating a new member who inadvertently sets himself on fire, and the most ironic thing of all of that is that his companions, instead of helping him, they make a run for it. This game is full of magical moments like these, extremely random, and we really love them. This game has so many details that honestly, it would be impossible for us to tell them all in one video. For example, take a look at this one. If you go inside this well and get to the bottom, you'll realize that someone was once a prisoner in this well, and they had him locked up in here. You can tell because you can see the marks of the prisoner counting the days he was inside the well. What a disturbing fact! If you go to this specific spot on the map, you're going to find a character who lives on top of a tree, and he swears he's a king. He's pretty crazy, by the way. How long has he been here? Why does he live on top of a tree? And why doesn't he want anyone to come near him? But while we find out, let's shoot him and see what he does. You can get an axe and a Viking helmet. Just go to this specific place and you'll find a small tunnel. Go through it to the end and you'll find a stone, where apparently a sacrifice was made, and possibly with an axe. You can take that axe and make it part of your inventory. And you can also get a Viking helmet that you can put on your character. There is a waterfall where there is a corpse in a pretty interesting scene. If you look closely, it's practically like the person jumped off a waterfall inside a barrel, and specifically a woman. Apparently, this is a reference to a scene from the movie The Hobbit. However, real educated super players like me know that it's a reference to Annie Edson Taylor, who jumped off Niagara Falls in a barrel, which was something people in those days supposedly used to do. And speaking of the movie The Hobbit, how about this house, identical to the houses that existed in The Lord of the Rings? It's not confirmed, but it's quite obvious the reference, although some say that in those times there were also some cultures that had houses like that. Also quite interesting in this old writing on this stone. We don't know what it means or who wrote it, but it's part of the details that make this game so mysterious and wonderful at the same time. You can find it in this location on the map. And continuing with the references, how about this one on The Walking Dead? If you look closely, this barn is very similar to one that was in the scene of that series that was full of zombies. How about this store that looks like a completely normal store, but if you play the previous Red Dead Redemption and also the zombie DLC, you'll notice that in this store there is the same mask that unleashed that curse on that game, and even though we can't interact with it, it is a cool little Easter egg. How about this super random mission where you meet a stranger in front of his house? He invites you in and you realize that his relationship with his sister is kind of weird. In the end, you realize it's all part of a plan that make you black out by getting you drunk and taking all your stuff. Mind you, when you wake up, you have the chance to go back to that house and get your stuff back and make them pay. I bet you didn't know this one. If you walk your horse over a dead animal and leave it there, you don't even have to remove the animal's skin. It will come off by itself, and you just have to pick it up. A very practical little trick. If you go to this location on the map, you will find another reference to a Hollywood movie. It would seem that a bear just attacked a human being, but it is a reference to the movie The Revenant, with Leonardo DiCaprio, in which a bear attacks him and he stabs it with a neck with a knife. Cool, right? Did you know that there's a vampire in this game? That's right, he's leaving messages all over town. You can even find him in the act, sucking the blood of one of his victims. And this character is actually another reference to the main villain of the movie Nosferatu. You can find this flying machine crashed in the middle of the desert. For those of you who are more experienced on the franchise, you'll remember that this is part of a mission from the original Red Dead Redemption, which, by the way, didn't come out as well. We do not know if you knew it, but there is a character named Marco Draczek, who is based on the great scientist Nikola Tesla. He even has the same experiment of remote-controlled boats that Tesla made in real life. Now, one thing Tesla didn't do in real life that this character did was to create a humanoid robot that ended up killing him. Unfortunately, it's a pretty sad story, because later you're going to find this robot on the edge of a mountain repenting and crying. Be careful, not all the cabins are the same. They look identical on the outside, but in some of them, you may open the door and ha 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 ha! If you go to this location on the map in Lemoyne and stay near the sign until midnight, you might see a ghost train.
Yeah. Yep.
While we never get to see Bigfoot in Red Dead Redemption 2, at least we can see his corpse on this mountain. This is one of my favorites, the Donkey Lady. In the original Red Dead Redemption, there was a glitch, a bug that transformed donkeys into a lady, and you could even ride on her and walk around on top of your lady, as if she was a donkey. There, look! Rockstar took note of this and immortalized this character in this figure. Wow! Be very careful walking in the swamps at night, as you may encounter the ghost of Agnes Dowd. If you pay attention, you'll notice that she's telling a story of how she's in love with a man her father won't accept, and that in fact, her father pulled a gun on this man. And while it's not clear to us if her dad killed him, what is clear to us is that Agnes Dowd killed other people and ended up killing herself, just like her grave says. And now she's walking around this swamp crying, telling the story and scaring the hell out of everyone. Another big secret is that you can get to Mexico. Yes! If you go to this location on the map, you can get there, although not in the traditional way. You just have to put your horse to cross the river, activating revitalizers until it reaches the other side. Once you're there, you'll have to make your horse jump and jump until the boundaries of the map are broken, and your character can exit. And even though this part of the map is only supposed to be visible from afar, it's pretty amazing how much detail Rockstar put into Mexico, even though you can't get there. In the middle of the forest, you can meet this mysterious character. Some call him the Werewolf. If you kill him, you'll be able to appreciate him better, and you will realize that he is basically a hermit who is full of hair and not necessarily a werewolf. What is interesting is that he lives inside a cave along with other animals, and he is extremely strange. If you insist on bothering and bothering and bothering your fellow campmates, eventually someone will come and knock you to the ground so you won't bother anymore. How about this character playing the banjo? Not only does he play it very well, but if you look closely, you'll notice that his body is totally deformed. Apparently, he suffers from some disease and is really a violent guy, so be very careful with him. I bet this one you didn't just know. See that character dressed in black? Do you recognize him? Do you recognize his voice? Believe it or not, this is the great-great-great-great-grandfather of a character we all know, Trevor from GTA 5. Even the character who does his voice is the same actor as Trevor from GTA 5. Wow!
You want to watch your mouth, boy.
And to conclude, at the end of the story, when we are playing as Jim Milton, we face one last enemy. If you pay attention, before killing him, he takes the same pose as in the original Red Dead Redemption game. You didn't know that one either, did you? Haha, see you on the next video.
Super players.